Stuart, it's great seeing you, man. For folks who are watching this whole interview on Rudy Blair Entertainment Media, RudyBlairMedia.com, Stuart, you said something that had me laughing for like 30, 40 seconds. Can you repeat what you said?
Uh, well, I just said it's nice to finally talk to you because I'm normally the guy sitting beside Jeff Martin or Singer who you're interviewing, and I normally contribute a couple of uh-huhs. Yep, this is the name of the album, and Jeff does most of the talking. So it's nice to finally speak to you.
And it's great to talk to you too, man. And even better to love the beard. How is that growing in on you, man?
It was getting longer, actually, to be honest, and it got to a length where I was getting followed around the drugstore. and, and this is a true story, actually. I was getting some cough medicine, and like this plainclothes detective came and stood beside me, and I was just like, "Oh, maybe it is time." I mean, they thought I was maybe auditioning for Breaking Bad or something, but I was also being called Fashion Santa, like the guy at Yorkdale.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that was probably a compliment. So
Oh my
all these
goodness. See,
middle-aged women wanting to sit on my lap, it was good.
oh my God, I'm actually starting to cry. My cheeks are starting to hurt. It's been a while since I've had a chance to laugh like this, man. But it's also been a while since we've had a chance to, I mean, having anything really to have a chance
Yeah.
with the Tea Party and the fact that we're going to talk about some new music. Congratulations on that. But I also have to add into, I got to ask, how are you holding up during this pandemic, man? Because, of course, here in Toronto and Ontario, open, shut a little longer. You can hang out with this person, you can't hang out with that person. It's just wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm out in Vancouver, and we had a great, you know, reaction to the COVID crisis initially, but a lot of people got careless, and I think they went to Whistler a few weeks ago, and there was the Brazilian variant, and that thing is so contagious that a lot of people got taken out by that, and that put us into our third wave. But we've been able to keep things open at least, and our kids have been going to school still. So my parents and a lot of my family still live in Ontario, and same with my wife's family, and we're very sensitive to what's happening there, obviously. But as a musician, it's been tough, like all our tours are canceled. And I mean, we're in a better position than most bands because we have a fan base. I feel sorry for some of those mid-range or beginning bands that are, about to have the greatest year of their lives, 2020, with their hit debut record, and then it didn't happen. And, it's life-changing for them. So and I think of all the crew and the sound people, the technicians, and the people that run the venues, and a lot of those people can't afford to wait it out, and they've gone on to other industries, and sadly a lot of them will be gone from our industry. So we're going to lose a lot of expertise. So but myself, on a personal level, I compose music for video games in addition to the Tea Party. So I'm normally in a basement working by myself composing music. So it was not a huge dramatic shift, and in some cases my FOMO, my fear of missing out, which I normally experience when I'm stuck in a basement writing music, is less so when I know other people are also stuck at home, unfortunately, and not doing any of the crazy, and admirable things that I miss out on. So, but it's been challenging.
Definitely has been. And congrats on no, not just the new music that we're going to talk about, but more or less congrats on the Tea Party. um what do we how many years are we talking here now?
Well, actually, last year with the COVID crisis, it was going to be our 30th anniversary.
That's what I was thinking, man. 30
8 years ago.
years. I remember, I think the very first time I interviewed you guys was at Much Music, Intimate and Interactive. And I was
Excellent.
sitting in the crowd. We had it set up where I was going to interview you and then interview the band. And then the next day, I talked to Jeff, and Jeff didn't have the mustache or the goatee, nothing. It was
No
clean,
Captain Morgan. Clean.
no Captain Morgan. And we had a great conversation. But I remember that intimate and interactive because it was, of course, at night. It was dark. It was, the real fans were there. I
Yeah.
miss those days, man,
Yeah.
where you guys are playing your hearts out, the fans, and like the energy was all there. And I always
Yeah.
think back to the Tea Party, Moist, Our Lady Peace. I mean, Canadian rock bands that truly open up the doors for today, the bands of today, but
Yeah.
also continued the legacy of the bands of yesterday. What were those days like for you, man?
Well, there was so much chemistry. I mean, like you mentioned, much music. They were a key driver, definitely. We cannot discount the fact that, having, these nice looking videos played on heavy rotation definitely helped all these can rock bands. And, Canadians have always been proud of their music and we've produced amazing music, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Tragically Hip, Rush. And so when we came along with good quality music, all those bands you mentioned, that there was a market for it. And it was a bit of a battle at radio, to be honest, though, to get the stuff played initially, because they would rather play, something that sounded exactly the same, but it got played in the station in Alabama, so it must be good. That was the rationale. But slowly but surely, through success, when a lot of programmers saw us be successful in Australia, it validated us, and they were able to play us on FM radio in Canada. But it was a real revival. One, the record companies, they spent money too on these Canadian bands. So across the industry, as you described, there was a scene, and that's how you broke a band. You spent some money, made a quality recording, and then you toured. And if you weren't that good live, then it probably wasn't going to happen for you. And a lot of bands weren't, and it didn't happen for them. But if you had all the key ingredients, the door was open for us. So it was a magic time. And to that end, we're trying to reinvigorate that by doing the Saints and Sinners tour, and it's evolved since COVID. Initially, Big Rack, Headstones, Ourselves and Moist, but Big Rack have bowed out, and luckily, I believe Sloan, who were right there at the beginning as well. You know. In America, you had bands like Nirvana, Sonic Youth. In Canada, we had Sloan, pursuing, similar paths, and huge following. Once again, they've probably been together for 30 years approaching, I would think, maybe longer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when those guys got together, but so this Saints and Sinners tour that we've put together is going to occur now this November. And I think,
Ah,
judging by the vaccines, I think, hopefully we'll be vaccinated enough for, concerts to happen then. So
crossing fingers on that. And yes, I already got my first shot, so got to wait a
me
couple
too.
of more months
So
for
yeah.
my second shot. You mentioned about Australia. What was it about Australia that loved the Tea Party? You could talk about Canada as being the home base, but Australia, massive Tea Party fans.
Yeah, HQ too. We went there. It was the first territory we went to, and we kept the ticket prices low, and we were able to play like 20 shows in the course of like 3 weeks. And we just watched the word of mouth spread, and the national radio station Triple J played "Save Me," our song at the time. So that did a lot of the legwork for us as well. But the crowds were so appreciative, and being a little further from America, they're away from America's shadow. It's really New Zealand that suffers the shadow of Australia,
Mhm.
but Australia is able to see music for what it is, perhaps. So if you sucked live, you're going to get booed off stage. This is the land of ACDC and NXS, where the bands are great. They come up through these large workers clubs, and if you're not good, a bunch of drunk Australians will throw beer cans at you. So it makes you get good in a hurry. But the listener there is a little more sophisticated in some ways, because they're allowed to choose more freely, perhaps, because, like I said, that shadow doesn't exist. So the net result is artists like Jeff Buckley, who anyone that's into music can universally agree Jeff Buckley is one of the most talented singer songwriters, guitarists out there. Sadly, he passed away from drowning in the Mississippi, a number of years ago. But at the time, he had a number one record in Australia, and in his home of America, his record, it caused a blip in critics circles, but it didn't make the impact that it did in countries like Australia. And same thing with Massive Attack and Bjork and all the artists that we all truly admire as music critics. Perhaps they were getting the recognition in Australia, like Faith No More.
Okay.
I mean, they're still big now, but there was a time in America they couldn't get arrested, and they're playing arenas in Australia. So it was a nice territory. And immediately after Australia, we went to Germany, and we thought, okay, let's now conquer Germany. And the ticket prices were higher. We weren't getting the radio play, so it just became more difficult and more expensive to tour there. So it didn't happen the same way. And we did well in Germany. We did big festivals, Rock am Ring, Rock am Park, and we're probably doing like 700, 800 seats a night at our peak there, by ourselves at a expensive ticket price. But in Australia, we did 5,500 tickets at the Horden Pavilion ourselves, so we got to a whole different level there. So yeah.
If you had to pick a song that really represented the Tea Party, what would it be? For me, Temptation,
Okay.
straight out.
Yep.
The power behind that song, the
Yep.
video,
Yeah. Yeah. We
amazing
spent a lot
video,
of money on that.
and the fact that the Trailer Park Boys, the movie, used that song too. I
Yes.
mean, to me, that is the song when it comes to the Tea Party. Agree or disagree?
I think it's one of the songs that I would play for people if they didn't
Mhm.
know the band. And I believe we played it at the SARS festival in front of 500,000 people, if you remember. And we could have picked any song in our catalog. And
Mhm.
oh, yeah.
That's why I was going to get to that.
Hold
That's
tight.
why I
Hold on.
wore this.
I have my SARS
Ah!
blanket with, hold on now. Hold on. Where is it? Right there.
Oh
Embroidered
man,
forever in all eternity. The stone. Oh, where are we?
there
There
we
we are.
are.
And we're in there somewhere. So
Oh
down on
my
this line.
goodness. Let's jump right over to that, man. What was it like to play that show?
um, I've been nervous twice in my life.
Mhm.
And the first time was when we got to play with Jimmy Page and Robert Plant at the Forum. And I had to like go down into a ball and center myself. As I get older, I don't care what people think about me. So nervousness is out the window, right? But you typically, as a musician performer, you get nervous when you're unsure of your surroundings. So
Mm.
sound check didn't go well, or you're going on without a sound check in some cases. So there is reason technically to be nervous. But at the SARS Fest, 500,000 people, and just the number of heartbeats and vocal cords and just spirits around you. And basically, if you took the city of Winnipeg and destroyed all the buildings and looked out, that's what you'd see. 500,000 people or whatever, 600,000 people. um and just your legends are there. I mean, sure, the Stones were not watching us side stage, of course, but they were backstage eating shepherd's pie. And so um I mean, it was a bit of a blur, and we did have some technical issues. So the day is not without some misgivings, or whatever we want to refer to it as, like some mixed emotions, I guess. Rolling Stones. Uh, but it was a magical day. People were there for the right reason. Um, and similar to COVID, it was in the middle of SARS, and we were just coming out of that crisis in Toronto. Like Canada was spared from SARS, but it was pretty scary in Toronto at the time. People were not taking the subway. I mean, luckily we contained it then, and it wasn't as contagious as COVID. But that whole concert really launched Toronto spirit back. So Toronto woke up after that, and just the Stones. I think I saw the Stones 3 times that year too. But seeing AC/DC for the first time live, and just their energy, and of all the bands that day, I think people. I know you're a Rolling Stones fan with the hat and everything, but people were kind of saying AC/DC stole the show.
AC,
But
they did steal the show. I was backstage for that, for the whole thing, in
yeah,
the press area, and everybody said it was true. Yes, Rolling Stones were the headliners, but
yeah,
AC/DC stole the show. I'm just curious. Did you see when Justin Timberlake got
yeah.
pummeled with the water
I
bottles?
did. Yep. I was on side stage for that. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame. I mean, he was there for all the right intentions, and he's a
Yeah.
talented performer, but I mean, it'd be like us opening for Slayer. I wouldn't expect anything other than negative reaction from the crowd. They wanted to see Slayer, but I think he did musically not mash with the other bookings, so they
Mhm.
probably could have eased things out by having a few transitional artists before and after, maybe Justin Timberlake, or just to let people know it was more inclusive. Because yeah, it was
Yeah,
sad.
I
Uh,
was I, I was trying to remember who he came up afterwards, but they should have had him around with the Isley brothers. I
yeah,
thought,
yeah,
which would have made a
Joel,
good transition. And one
yeah.
thing I'm going to throw this out because I mean, to me, it was an amazing show. A lot of people didn't realize that when the Isley brothers were singing, Mick Jagger was backstage with a microphone. He didn't come out on stage, but he was singing with them during some of their songs.
How incredible is that? You're so famous. You get to do karaoke with the Isley Brothers.
Like I said, man, you guys are part of the biggest, show and things, and it was an amazing time. Which is why whenever I hear about anything with the Tea Party, doing anything like this tour that you just talked about, that's gonna be happening in November, and now we've got a song for the season. It's the perfect name, and to me, it's the perfect song. For folks who don't realize this, what's the new single from the Tea Party that's happening in 2021?
It just came out in time for summer. It's called Summertime. And unlike our dark poetic songs of the past. This is more of a Led Zeppelin dancing days, if you will, more lighthearted. And, the band has many sides, and we're not serious all the time. We have great big laughs on the bus when we're touring around. But I think this song, just musically, it came together so quickly in a rehearsal space in Vancouver in 2019 that, Jeff Martin immediately thought of summertime, just playing this song at the Key to Bala, up in Muskoka, where, people are out suntanning all day, and then they head to this rock and roll bar at nighttime, and just, everyone's just relaxing, having a good time. And, there is a time for seriousness, and, we're putting out an EP with other more serious songs perhaps, but, this song just felt like a fun romp, a look back on, the beginnings of the band too, because we started off as a blues rock band, and it wasn't so dark, and there wasn't so much world music back then. But so it's lighthearted. I think it's 3 minutes long, so
Yeah.
even if you didn't like it, it's not too long.
You just mentioned EP. What's going on with this?
Well, we recorded in Vancouver at the Armories when Jeff Martin was over in Canada for a few weeks for a solo tour, and he went back to Australia, finished some of the tracks. Then we mixed it in Windsor, Ontario, with a friend in Windsor. So it'll be coming out. It really depends on how the single does, really. So, I mean, ideally, I hope it comes out right around the tour time in November. So,
fingers are crossed. Look, as we're wrapping this up, we kind of talked about how some of the bands are having tough times and artists are having a tough time now during this COVID-19 pandemic. Any advice that you can give these bands and artists that hopefully, as you said, yes, some of them they got to make money, they got to do what they can, but hopefully they can stick around. Any advice that you can give them as we're going through this third wave?
Well, it's kind of all tied together. Like, you could take this introspective time to master your craft. So I've been doing finger picking guitar, and I wasn't very good before, and I was a strummer. But I've tried to do like Lindsey Buckingham songs and things like that. But so work on your craft. Then I would say reach out to social media. I mean, it's a different world. The idea of being Led Zeppelin and being a mysterious, dark, mysterious band, that can work, for some bands, but it's not really, if you do want to reach people and your goal is to, be successful, that is defined by playing in front of people and having a following, then you do have to reach out. You do have to surrender some of your privacy and, share some moments of you playing this instrument, mastering your instrument, build your following so that when things do open up, you actually have an audience to play for. So, yeah, and it kind of sorts out the people too that are serious and that are just bedroom musicians too, I guess, So if you weren't serious about music before COVID, then and you're still doing it, then give yourself a pat on the back and, lift your head up high that, you are a true musician. So
fantastic. And I absolutely agree with you. I'm still trying to figure out TikTok. It seems like now, if you're TikTok famous, damn, you're famous,
Yeah, you got to bring in some younger generation to help you. like I have a couple of kids to help me, so
thank goodness.
Working on my dance moves.
Yeah, I'll figure it out on my side. Social media, where do we go to follow? That's the first time I've ever asked anybody from the Tea Party. Social media, where do we go to follow?
If you want information, probably Twitter is where we send out all the bits, about the tour and all that. And all of our platforms are the Tea Party Band, because as you know, with the politics and all that, it's hard to disseminate who the band is. But we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. That's where the new video is. And then, of course, all the streaming services have the new music. Instagram, Facebook actually is pretty active too. If you go on there, there's some great groups of fans of ours from around the world, and you can get in some great arguments about lyrical content.
Fantastic. Stuart, thank you so much for the interview, man. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the great music.
Yes.
Thank you for the band.
Thank you for being a Toronto music legend, So always look forward to listening to you.
You know what? Anything that I've been able to do is because you guys have been able to give me access. And like I said, Moist, Our Lady Peace. It's kind of fun. I was talking to Rain Maida. They're going to be releasing an album soon too. So I get to do a little nostalgia with talking about new stuff, but it's still with the bands that I have grown to love and respect and just enjoy great music. And you guys have always been part of that fabric. So honestly, man, thank you.